All right, welcome back. I got to talk about the Jeremy Swayman situation and the contract negotiations. I'm a Bruins fan. I've been pretty quiet on this scenario so far. Last year, Swayman and Bruins management, specifically Don Sweeney, the general manager, and Cam Neely, the president, underwent arbitration. They came up to a 1 year contract, right? And that's what Swayman played through last season. This year, neither the player nor team elected to go through arbitration again, which fine because it was kind of messy last time from what we heard. This whole contract thing, I was a little sketched out coming into this offseason, right? And then they trade Allmark, and you're like, all right, they're probably going to give Swayman a pretty fair offer. They need to lock him up, right? You get Corpusalo in exchange, who could be an okay backup, but definitely not a starter, um, right? You need to lock up your number one goaltender. Your strength of your team the past few years has been your goaltending in Ulmark and Swayman, essentially splitting starts. One of them wins a Vesna, which is the best goaltender in the league award, right? And both are top 10 goalies in the league, if not better. I'm very high on Allmark. I'm sad he's gone, and I'm really disappointed in the return. But you would think with that trade comes more bargaining power for Jeremy Swayman because he is the guy now. Um, now, my initial projection for Jeremy Swayman was somewhere around a $7.5 million contract, maybe for between 6 and 8 years. It's clear Swayman wants term, and with goaltenders being somewhat more volatile of a position in terms of performance and annual stats, comparatively or compared to like a defenseman or a forward. Um, a goaltender would want that stability per se, and you can't fault a player for wanting that stability. But nonetheless, Swayman was he played 4 years now. There's plenty of tape on him. He's played very well in the playoffs. You kind of know what you're getting with him. I know there's a lot of hate about him not being the official starter, but he's played 41 games 1 year, 44 games the next year, which is half, a little over half, which is fine. He'll probably get 10, maybe 15 more games this upcoming year should he be ready on day one. Right? So I don't know, like 10, 15 more games throughout a year. I know it's like a goaltender, you got to play all 60 minutes, so it's a little more intense. But you do have, a competent NHL backup in Corpusalo, and say what you want about him. I think a goaltender stats are very much a result of the defense in front of them. And Corpusalo, let's be real, hasn't played in front of very good defenses the past few years. In his later years in Columbus and in Ottawa. So I'm a little concerned for Allmark, but I could do a video on that a separate time because Allmark I think is a little special. So Swayman again, going back, I was projecting around $7.5 million a year. It's 8 million is what Cam Neely came out and said, or 64 million is what he said, which is assumed to be an 8 million cap hit at 8 years, 8 times 8, 64 million, which fine. I have independent thoughts about negotiating with goaltenders, but those are more opinion and based on the market, based on the NHL, based on the trends of contracts and younger players getting paid a little more, for what they will do rather than what they have done. I don't think that's necessarily translated to the goalie market just yet. We're seeing bridge deals. We saw Philip Gustafson in Minnesota throw up, Vesna numbers, just didn't have the games played. Not this past season, but the year before. Signed a bridge deal and, wasn't super great this past season, right? That's just an example. But honestly, like, if I'm in Swayman's shoes, 8 million for 8 years, given the track record, you're given. I don't know. I think that's fine. But Swayman's agent has come out and been like, "We've never heard the number 64. We don't know what you're talking about." It sounds like there's a real disconnect, and I have personal thoughts on Don Sweeney and Cam Neely. As a Bruins fan, I want them to succeed. I want them to win a Stanley Cup. That would be amazing. 2011 was incredible. I'm sorry, Canucks fans. I know that one. That one kind of hurts. 2019, I don't know. I wasn't super hopeful, but they had a chance. They made it to the Cup Finals, but the Blues were outplaying them most of the series, and it is what it is. 2013, I don't really think they had a chance against the Blackhawks, but now I'm just going on a little soapbox. But I want to see this team do well, and I don't think of Neely and Sweeney in high regards with respect to what they've done and accomplished as Bruins management. I know they've been successful, but you've also been. That's a video for a whole nother time. So, point is, those thoughts aside, my negative feelings about Sweeney and Neely completely aside, I'm always in favor of workers, players, whoever getting more money than less. It's a lot of corporations, and I'm in America, so it may be a little more pronounced here, but a lot of CEOs, corporations, higher up people get a lot of money, and that money isn't distributed evenly throughout the workers for the most part. Not every company is like that, but the NHL is a little bit like that, and I know there's 50-50 profit sharing, but there's exceptions like the $1 billion expansion fee they just got, for example. Billion divided by 32 owners. Well, I think it was 31 because that was Utah's expansion money, right? 32. That's still quite a bit of money, right? That's a lot of extra money that could have been added to, say, a cap, for example, a cap hit, cap ceiling. So I'm always a little in favor of the worker, the player, of trying to get more money, especially because they're the ones with the boots on the ground. So they're the one putting in the work. In the NHL, it's you don't really have an off season anymore. You might have a vacation for like a week or two, but you're training all year round and training intensely. You have to be in really good shape. Even as goaltenders, you have to put in a lot of work. And Philip Gustafson, another example in Minnesota, or same example in Minnesota. We're just going back to him. Not a whole lot of off-season conditioning coming into last year, and as a result, got off to a pretty rough start. Had kind of an off year, down year, and there were concerns about his conditioning coming in this year. I don't know. I don't know how that's looked so far. I haven't gotten any insight to that, but nonetheless, as a player, you're doing a lot of work. And I guess this is more just a rant, a rant video at the end of the day. But I'm a little disappointed in the fact that Sweeney and Neely have been so public and so aggressive in regards to these contract negotiations, where we've essentially heard crickets from Swayman's side. Every now and then we'll get like a quote like he wants to help reset the goalie market in terms of pay and salary, and I think there's some validity to that because goaltenders are notoriously underpaid compared to other positional players such as defensemen, forwards, centers, whatever, right? And we know that. Look at Connor Hellebuck's last contract, right? One of the best goaltenders in the league. Definitely, I'd put him top 3 without a question. Whatever order in that top 3 you want to have your top 3 goaltenders at, knock yourself out. Nonetheless, right? A top 3 player in your position, you're usually getting well north of $10 million, or at least $10 million, and Hellebuck not even close to that, for example. And that's just an example, right? So goaltenders are notoriously underpaid, and there's reasons for that. Again, going back to the volatility and so on. But you want to, I get that, but for the most part, Swayman's side, pretty quiet, right? That's not something absurd or outlandish. A lot of players aim to do that. We saw that with Nathan McKinnon. We see that kind of with McDavid, although he still takes a discount, but he still makes a lot of money. Right, and I know that's controversial because he makes a lot of money, but his value is higher than what his cap hit is, for example. right? So there's no shame in Swayman trying to shoot for the stars, but at the same time, you know, 8x8 is a pretty lucrative contract considering Swayman's past stats, his past history, his playoff performance, right? Establishing himself as probably a top five goalie in the league. I would say he's about five, maybe six. Right, nonetheless, a very strong positional player, very, very reliable and good. One of the best goaltenders in the league. I don't think that's super controversial to say. I don't think that's controversial at all. But I'm also a Bruins fan, so you know, there's also that as well. Right. So you know, and we're hearing sound bites from Sweeney and Neely, and it's really heart wrenching. So we saw again Swayman's agent come out and kind of give a whole little tiny spiel about how this is the first they've heard of 64 million, and that wasn't even an option, that wasn't an offer that was presented to them. And I think this thing has gotten a little too nasty, a little too ugly. Where you know, I'm sure Swayman would absolutely love to stay in Boston. Great group of people, winning team, right? But at this point, the relationship between your number one goaltender and management has become very public and very uncomfortable. I don't know if that's a sustainable work relationship moving forward. You know, they said they're going to take a few days. The Swayman camp is going to take a few days to kind of make sense of all this, kind of figure it out, and determine what they're going to come back with in negotiations or whatever you have. I don't know if Swayman's going to request a trade, but again, that puts the Bruins in a tough position as well. The Bruins have every interest to get their number one goaltender signed, because then your number one goaltender, if Swayman's unsigned, is Korpisalo. You have to go out and acquire a number one goaltender. Your chances of even thinking about competing for a Stanley Cup have dwindled down significantly. Right now, you're just worried about making the playoffs if you're the Boston Bruins. I think they will, even without Swayman, but you're probably looking at like maybe a wild card position. We'll see, but you know, if they trade Swayman, you're looking at, you know, maybe a goaltender swap and a team that can eat the cap space that Swayman is asking for. And that's going to be really tough. You're looking at maybe a goaltender like Ilya Sorokin, right, who's making somewhere near the amount that Swayman's making, but Sorokin probably has a little more value. Islanders probably not looking to move a goaltender like Ilya Sorokin, who has been incredible. Had a bit of a down year last year, yes, but for the most part, very consistent, very, very solid in net. One of the best goaltenders in the league, right? But you have to kind of swap a goaltender for a goaltender and a cap space for a cap space, or you're throwing in players, and who would the Bruins throw in that can free up some cap space? Or it gets very hairy. The Bruins are gonna, if you're trading Swayman for Sorokin, the Bruins are gonna have to bundle something else in, because the Islanders would be doing the Bruins a favor by helping them out, getting this goaltender who history of success isn't quite as there as Ilya Sorokin. Pedigree, Sorokin may be a better goaltender, for example, right? So there are questions. There are a lot of questions, and I think it puts Swayman has, I think, a lot of power right now, if not all the power in this negotiations. Whether he wants to stay, whether he wants to be traded, and I think he genuinely wants to stay in Boston. You know, I think he absolutely loves his teammates. I think he loves the city. Made a lot of friends. Kind of found a little home in Boston, which is really nice. I love when players find homes in whatever city they're playing in. I think it's fantastic. And then it kind of hurts a little more when they get traded, you know, because they're like a hometown favorite, right? That's how I felt with Andrew Ference in Boston, right? He lived in the North End, great guy, always out, always interacting, just loving life in Boston, and he's gone. I think he was, I don't know if he was traded. I don't remember. It doesn't really matter. Right, but you know, it's a little bit of a blow to the fan base and maybe the team as well, probably the team. But you know, Swayman has an opportunity to put the Bruins management staff in a a pretty difficult scenario right now. So we'll see. We'll see what'll happen. I'm intrigued. I think Swayman, if offered an 8x8, should probably take it. I would take it. I think that's fair, if not a little more than fair. But that's just my opinion. I'm not a negotiations expert. I'm not I have no insight into what goes on in hockey contract negotiations and so on. I don't know if there's no trade clauses involved or any of the extra stuff, right? Bonuses, signing bonuses, whatever you have, deferred payments to year 9, as we saw with Carolina, I believe, recently. So I don't have any of that insight, but I'd say good for Swayman and Swayman's agent for kind of sticking up for him. Swayman's agent notoriously is difficult to negotiate with, but that shouldn't have been a surprise with the Bruins, as the Bruins have negotiated specifically with the same agent in the past before. He was Torrey Krug's agent with Boston. Torrey Krug wanted more money than Boston was willing to pay, and Torrey Krug is all of a sudden in St. Louis, right? The Bruins knew this before trading Ullmark, so I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for Neely and Sweeney. So it's interesting. We'll see. This is just really, I guess, more or less just a rant video. I didn't have any structure to this, and that's okay. That's usually why I use the whiteboard, is for structure in these. But it is what it is. It's just I have thoughts. I'm gonna get it out, and here you go. Kind of all over the place. Kind of a little bit of rant and then another rant, and kind of coming back. And I don't know. I appreciate you. I know this might not have been the most informative video. This might not have been the best analysis or even a good analysis or whatever. But I have thoughts, and I just need to get them out in the open. And if you were able to follow along, that's incredible, because I probably wouldn't. So I appreciate you. And if you're watching this video after 17 minutes, I salute you. I appreciate that. That's insane. And that's really all I got. So obviously, thoughts, comments, let me know. Love to hear it. Love to talk Bruins hockey. Big Bruins guy. I'm going to a Bruins Capitals game in DC the Saturday, I believe. Saturday at 5, the 5th. I think it's Saturday. So that's good. I'm going to be excited. I'm going to be wearing this jersey. So, yeah. All right. That's all I got. Appreciate you. Take care, all right?